for watching this video. My name is Paul Benjamin, Managing Director of Benjamin & Benjamin Insurance Brokers, an insurance brokerage that's been working with the RWTA for about the last 18 months. It's my pleasure to talk to you about an interesting product that may be the answer for many suffering the terrible dilemma of increased premiums year on year. So what I want to do now is just share my screen so that you can follow what I have to say. This video is going to be this is going to be videoed and recorded and sent out to those people who couldn't make it in time to be part of this. So sharing my screen now. Can you see that, Marianne?
Not as yet.
Wait a second, and there we go.
There it is. That's it. Let's go.
Okay. Thank you. All right. A lot of people sometimes feel this way when they've received their increased premiums year on year. What do you do with insurance? Oh my God. Just to let you know that insurance premiums have been increasing year on year here in Australia, particularly for property insurance since 2017. And in fact, stats that the industry has will say that the premium that you paid in 2017 will be less than half what you're having to pay this year. So there's been an increase of more than 100%. I'm sorry that insurance is seen to be a bit of pill to swallow as an expense. I want to throw a slight twist on that and say that it's actually, and ironically, you're going to say that me as an insurance broker should say this, but it's actually an investment in the future, because in the unfortunate event that you have a major claim or a total claim on your building, if you're a building owner, or if you're an operator and you lose everything inside your cold storage, insurance will pay you the replacement value of that asset. And so if you're paying $100,000 this year for insurance, and that's covering a $10 million building, $100,000 investment to get $10 million back, some might say is a wise thing. But let me just move on and talk to you about who'll benefit from this discussion about a discretionary mutual fund, an alternative to traditional forms of insurance. And you can see there that it's businesses here in Australia and New Zealand can take advantage of this. It's for owners and operators of cold storage facilities, and it's or if you're not an operator but you're a landlord, it will help you, or if you're an operator, a tenant of a cold storage. So it covers a lot of people, what I'm going to talk about today. Just to give you a little bit of background, a pain point for why insurance premiums have gone up. Insurance is prepaid, so insurers get their premium up front for a whole year, and that money is typically invested to generate profit, to help them generate a profit on that money that they've received, and that money helps to offset claims that happen during the term of the insurance, along with the margin that they built into the product that they're offering you. So the problem is that for 10 years leading up to last year, interest rates were so low that insurers were getting no return on their money, and that meant that they were carrying greater losses in their profit and loss, in a sense of a notional figure, which meant they've had to increase premiums faster than normal. We're all aware of the supply chain issues with COVID, delays, cost of raw materials, labour shortages, increased labour costs have caused increased costs of building, increased cost of repair or a rebuild, which reduces profits. That's meant premiums have had to go up. Inflation, the increased costs of that across the board has meant increased premiums. We're all aware of these climate catastrophes, and these are particularly painful, not only for the insurer, but down there you'll see I put reinsurer. A reinsurer, for those of you who don't know, they insure insurance companies where, for example, in a catastrophe of a flood, an insurer may have a limit total payout that they'll pay out of $100 million, and anything above the $100 million that insurer has to pay out in claims will be picked up by a reinsurer. What I'm explaining by that is that in every building insurance premium, there is not only the cost that the insurer charges to cover not only their administration and management of the policy, but also the amount that they pay for claims they are anticipating for claims and their profit margin. There is also an amount paid to a reinsurer, which could be anywhere from 8 to 15% of your premium goes to a reinsurer, which goes into their premium pool to pay out for catastrophes. Because we've had so many climate catastrophes, because we've had such an increase in actual claims cost in the P&L for insurers because they're not getting a return on the money they've got invested, because of all the increased costs, what that's meant is insurers have left certain sections of the insurance market. An example, a company called Vero, owned by Suncorp. They were the biggest insurer of home and contents in Queensland. They just decided with 2 months' notice to say, we're not insuring homes anymore. So anybody who had a renewal that was coming up, they had to go and find a different insurer. They just decided after their claims experience and the loss they were making on that part of their insurance book that they were going to stop insuring homes across Queensland. That also came because the reinsurers were putting pressure on them to get out of a market where they were making losses. So they are pain points that are structural inside the insurance industry. It's not personal to you if your premiums are going up. Even if you haven't had a claim, these are structural problems. But a discretionary mutual fund doesn't suffer these sorts of things. The alternative is a discretionary mutual fund. Now, for those of you who attended the last webinar presentation I gave on this, a lot of the things that I'm going to be covering were now was in that presentation. But this section of my presentation isn't as long as the one that I gave in the previous webinar. So insurances that are affected by a discretionary mutual fund for you, should you decide to participate and create this entity called a discretionary mutual fund. It covers property insurance. It covers those items being building, loss of profits, machinery and contents, and it covers liability insurance. Through this product called a discretionary mutual fund is the opportunity for members, and I'll come to that in a second, the ability to not only reduce the cost of your insurance, but also potentially manage the flat line of premium so it doesn't continue to go up like you've suffered over the last nearly 10 years. So I'm just going to quickly cover off the topics within a discretionary mutual fund for you, which is what it is, how it operates, how it's how it's different to traditional insurance, the financial benefits for you being insured through a discretionary mutual fund, and partnering with my business, Benjamin Insurance Group, and Steadfast, who would ultimately be the managers of your discretionary mutual fund. So let me quickly talk about my business. I'm a third generation insurance broker that's owned an insurance brokerage. We've been operating as insurance brokers in Australia for over 100 years. My grandfather, Oswald Benjamin, set up the first Lloyd's insurance brokerage in 1921 here in Melbourne. If you don't know what a Lloyd's insurance brokerage is, I'm happy to answer that question later on, but it's part of a global insurer. We're a boutique insurance brokerage. We have over 8,000 clients, as I've got there. We work with the members of the RWTA through endorsement of the RWTA. We're known as a brokerage for solving problems. And that's how we've come to be talking to you about the discretionary mutual fund, which is a fabulous product, and I do hope you decide to take it up. ANZIF there is an acronym for the Australian New Zealand Institute for Insurance and Finance. I've been the chair of their insurance broker board there, which is our peak body for the industry. I've been the chair of the insurance broker board there for about 4.5 years. I'm deputy chair before that. And I've actually just recently stepped down to help my business because it's going through enormous growth through that. You'll see there, Steadfast Limited. It's an ASX listed company, top 200 company. It's the largest network of insurance brokers in Australia. We take $13 billion in premiums across the group. It has market cap of nearly $6 billion, and my business is part of Steadfast. And in Steadfast, they have a service offering called Alternative Risk Transfer Division, and it's that business that I'm working with to help you set up a DMF if that's what you so choose to do. So a DMF, a discretionary mutual fund, it's based on membership. It's not open to the general public. It's open to people who are approved as members to become a member of the discretionary mutual fund. It is, in a sense, its own unique insurance company, and it would be your only unique insurance company protecting businesses related to the cold storage industry. Predominantly and specifically for those cold stores, anything that is cold storage. To be a member of the fund, you have to undertake a full risk review of your operations, and that will require engineering, electronic, it will be fire, engineers would come out, a full survey is done, and it's done for two reasons. The first one is to help you understand what your business is and how it's operating as far as risk is concerned. You'll get full documentation and understanding of your business, but it's also to help you potentially reduce areas of risk in your business. A mutual fund is about a mutual coming together of like-minded people so that you get the best outcome. Different to an insurance company where people from all walks of life across different types of policies are insured by an insurance company, and the insurance company just charges you a premium. They have some interest in making sure that you're potentially a good risk, but a mutual fund is absolutely obsessed about making sure that your risk is lowered for the benefit of your business, because you actually don't ever want to have a catastrophe in your business, because that can send you, your suppliers potentially to the wall, will adversely affect your employees. You don't want that to happen. And the intention of a mutual fund is to support you to make sure that you can just operate and do what you want to do. I can hear some microphone in the background. Potentially somebody's got a mic on. You might want to turn that off. Bit of feedback coming back. The success of a discretionary mutual fund is about numbers of people coming together. It's not about one or two. It's about, and it couldn't be set up on one or two people putting their hand up. We need to have the membership base come in so you all benefit financially from being in the fund. So if you're genuinely considering coming into the fund, make sure that everybody that you know and like in the industry is also coming into the fund. So a fund, you set up a discretionary mutual fund for the long term. It's not a short-term fix. It's not for just 1 year or 2 years. The benefits of a fund get better the longer the fund is there and the more people that participate in it. So to set up a discretionary mutual fund, you form a company, and the board is made up from members. It is effectively, as I've said before, it's an insurance company in its own right. And I've put there that it's self-insurance in whole or in part of your business insurance program. So typically people will have insurance outside of building insurance and liability insurance. If they're commercially prudent, would have a management liability insurance. They'd have cyber insurance. They might have a fleet of vehicles, so they might have fleet insurance, and there are other insurances that you might have. So this product, this entity, discretionary mutual fund, is focusing just on building insurance and liability insurance. And unlike with an insurance policy that you buy from an insurance company where you pay a premium, the word premium is replaced with a membership contribution, because a discretionary mutual fund is a fund. It's not an insurance company, and therefore it is the fund that assumes the liability for the risks that it insures. I spoke just before about the more people, the more members in, the better. The more members in creates a pool of members' contributions, which are what I use to pay out on claims. Now, as I know I stated there, it also pays out in operating expenses because it's a business and it's got to be run. The big difference with this fund is it's not for profit. It's not like an insurance company where it's got to put in every premium. It's got to put in a profit margin. That's not what this is about. This is about having sufficient funds there to pay out on potential losses. But if those losses potentially are huge, depending on the types of risks insured, there will be a layer of insurance taken up by the reinsurer, which I talked about earlier, which will limit the potential maximum payout by the fund, so the fund doesn't go broke. And so the mutual fund will go out and buy a policy from a normal insurer, a global rated insurer, and there are about 8 companies in the world that specialize in reinsurance. We would buy an excess layer above the limit that the fund wants to pay out in any given year, or in for a maximum particular loss. So we cover both those things. So I talked earlier in the previous slide about a contribution to the fund, which is different to an insurance company. Because it's not an insurance company specifically, it's not able to issue an insurance policy because it's not an insurance company. It issues an agreement. And the term discretionary goes to the fact that the board of directors, acting in the interests of the mutual fund, decide whether to pay or not to pay a claim. And that's why it's called discretionary. Now, in practice, unless there's been potential negligence that's bordering on criminal and fraud, I'm not aware of any claim that hasn't been paid by the mutual fund, because it's working in the interests of the members who have operated transparently, cohesively, with honour and integrity in making sure that their business is de-risked by working with the risk review that's done of the entity at the beginning of the period, and then it will happen through the lifetime of being a member of the fund, to make sure that the fire risk is reduced, that the accident risk is reduced, the maintenance and housekeeping of the entities are controlled. Now, another function of the operation of the DMF is that any surplus monies that aren't paid out for claims are reinvested back into the fund. And the benefit is that that can go to helping with more of risk improvement and risk management of members. And it can also go to reducing future contributions, i.e. premiums. And that's the way that a mutual fund works closely with the membership, in the interests of the membership, in the interests of the industry. Very different to an insurance company, because it's actually operating for the benefit of the shareholders, not for the benefit of the policyholders. So it turns it on its head. It makes a DMF a very powerful entity. This slide talks about risk management is essential to how a DMF operates, and key considerations. And so this slide reinforces what I've said earlier today. It's a highly risk managed entity for the benefit of the members. It's specific to this industry, which is for a benefit of the members. It has claims management experience specific to the industry for the benefit of the members. It's exclusive. It's an exclusive membership. Okay, so somebody who is outside the industry wouldn't be allowed to come in. If people are not members of the RWTA who are helping set this up, then there will, I've been advised there'll be a different contribution price point. It will be a higher amount so that members of the RWTA get the best possible outcome by being a member by way of contribution value. If people aren't members of the RWTA, I've been advised they're going to have to pay a high contribution value, which again puts downward pressure on contributions for the members of the RWTA. And I said earlier, the success of a discretionary mutual fund is about a long-term commitment to the discretionary mutual fund. 5 to 10 years is what it should be looked at as a minimum. Now, how does a discretionary mutual fund differ to traditional insurance companies? So, talking of insurance policies, and a lot of this I've already outlined, but I'll go through it again. An insurance company agrees to take on a risk for a policyholder in exchange for payment of an insurance premium. It commits to claims payments if the claim falls within the policy wording. So it's a contract, and if it doesn't fall within the policy wording, because there are exclusions, there are endorsements, because it's not mentioned in the policy wording, not paid, and the insurance company will make a hard and fast rule because they're in business for themselves and for their shareholders. They're out to make profit. Insurance companies invest their money from the premiums received, and I talked about this earlier, with financial returns distributed to shareholders for the benefit of the shareholders. An insurance company guarantees that valid claims made under the terms of the policy will be paid, and if a policy holder makes a claim, it's unlikely their insurance premium will increase in the following year. Sorry, it's likely, not it's not. It's likely their insurance premiums will increase the following year, even if they haven't made a claim. So that's a big problem for everybody who's suffered, as I talked about earlier, in the last since 2017, premiums have just been going up even if you hadn't had a claim. Discretionary mutual fund, as I've talked earlier, it's a not-for-profit entity. There are no shareholders. It's there for the benefit and the contribution to the members. Its claims are capped and reinsurance is taken out to protect the contribution pool, and any surplus is reinvested for the benefit of the members to improve risk management and to offset future claims, to keep the contribution that's been paid stable. All members have the right to have their claims considered, but the board of the DMF at its discretion decides whether or not to pay the claim. And in a sense, the same thing happens in an insurance company. Every claim that you make is not automatically paid. It's assessed by the insurance company. So we've talked about that the cold chain industry has been impacted by reduced insurer appetite because of the high risk nature of a lot of cold storage buildings being EPS and similar product. It's time to consider the formation of a DMF, and the reason for that is for not only all the things that I've mentioned before, but some of the other benefits are that because it's just for the members, just for the cold storage industry, there's enhanced management cost control because we're about maximizing the opportunity for members. It's fit for purpose for your industry. And here's a big kicker. Statutory charges and taxation burden normally incurred in paying a premium do not appear in a discretionary mutual fund. So what do I mean by that? So things like stamp duty as a charge does not apply. And that varies between 8 to 11% across Australia, depending on whether you're in a territory or a state, and it varies from state to state. There's an immediate saving there. If you're in New South Wales, you pay a fire services levy. That amount of money, and in other states where fire service levy is charged, that is not applicable because we're not picking up money that way. So there can be demonstrative reductions in premium by being part of a DMF. And the funds, as I've said earlier, any surplus funds are reinvested for the benefit of the fund, not for shareholders, and not to pay off losses that might be in other portfolios. It might be home and contents or car or cyber insurance or whatever it might be. The money that is a surplus at the year end is reinvested for the benefit of the members. I talked earlier about Steadfast and said they're a publicly traded company, that the top 200 ASX listed company. I just want to quickly go through 3 slides to talk about how Steadfast will work with my company and you to set up the DMF. So their division, Alternative Risk Transfer, partners with companies like mine and entity and industries like yours to set up and manage a mutual. So these are all the things that they do, and in their consultation with me and through me to you, they'll establish a strong business plan, a strong financial plan, a strong marketing plan, a strong operational plan, and in so doing, establish the context and identify the risks and evaluate all the risks inside a discretionary mutual fund, and then how to treat the risks that are found through a detailed analysis of the members who want to participate in the fund. The thing to understand is that Steadfast ART, Alternative Risk Transfer Division, are endorsed and approved by ASIC and also APRA. And APRA is the Australian Prudential Regulatory Authority. We all know who ASIC is, to form a discretionary mutual fund. Those 2 entities, ASIC and APRA, do the same thing for insurance companies. Because this is an insurance-like product, it is deemed that necessary that ASIC and APRA approve the formation. So there is a strategy, structure, process in place so that there is success. Steadfast Mutual Management is responsible for the full operation and management of the mutual. They make sure that the correct operation is the correct financial security by way of having the excess of loss, the reinsurance is put in place. They manage the claims on behalf of the fund, and they manage and supervise risk management of members that are part of the mutual or that want to be considered to be part of the mutual. So in the formation of a DMF, Steadfast support the following activities: due diligence, feasibility study, formation costs, along with reinsurance, legal fees associated with formation of a constitution and statement of protection of the fund. It includes their appointment, claims management, board of directors formation, and data analysis available to the mutual on an ongoing basis for the benefit of the members. To do all these things, Steadfast ART require monies as a setup fee, and in the past it's been talked about that there would be a total cost to set it up the mutual fund of $50,000 by Steadfast. I've gone into a negotiation to work with them to work out how we can mitigate that cost through the setup phase, and they are open to that discussion if the RWTA and the members choose to want to set up a DMF. And that brings us to the end of my presentation. I'm happy to take any questions you might have. Thank you for giving me 40 minutes of your time to talk to you about this.
Thank you, Paul. That's been really informative. Going to the floor, is there anybody that has a question?
Yeah, I do. Marianne, Paul, Tony Sands, how are you, mate?
Well, thanks, Tony. Good to hear from you.
Yes, mate. Yeah, firstly, and look, thanks for your help and support through this process. You've put a lot of time and a lot of effort into it, no question about that. If some of these have been answered previously, I've missed them. So look, I've got a few questions here. None of them are in any particular order. So
Fine.
Straight into them. Who pays for the risk review assessment, and who is that conducted by? Which organisation?
Okay, so great questions. So there would be the risk reviews, which will be electrical, engineering, would be fire protection. Those three things, plus I would want to add in there evaluation for insurance rebuild costs, because there's been terrible cases of underinsurance at the moment, particularly with the cost of building going up. Businesses have got caught terribly. All those things, there would be a list of companies made available to members to whom that they could choose. They would be typically nationally recognised companies providing those services. And Steadfast have, and my company works with the companies they recommend. Steadfast, because they're a network of 460 brokerages across Australia and in every part of Australia, Steadfast have done the due diligence on these companies. And references are available if required. Testimonials are available, and quotes would be available for one or several companies if you chose to get them to come in and have a look at your premise to help with the risk review. And to your question about cost, that would be borne by the individual business. And the reason for that is whilst there is an upfront cost, these reviews typically last 3 years. So it's not just something you'd need to do each year, with the exception that you'd need to get electrical engineers to do thermal scans of switchboards annually. They're not expensive, but the purpose of each of these reviews is to identify any risks that you might not be aware of, and to make sure that the potential member of the fund met a minimum baseline of, we'll call it risk strategies, so that they weren't a potential big loss waiting to happen, so that would be detrimental to the benefit of the other members of the fund. The intention is that everybody comes together to, with the idea of reducing risk.
Yeah, fine. Okay, got that.
Yep.
That's fine. Thank you. Can I move on to the next one?
Yep.
How many members do you... So let me go back one step. So to get to this point, you've done a lot of work. So
yep.
You would have done some due diligence and analysing out how many members do you require to take this up?
It's a great question, and I'm not trying to avoid it. What I want to say is it's about premium pool. If we had 100 businesses sorry, I should say contribution pool. Sorry, if there were 100 small members that each paid only $10,000 in premium that would give you a premium pool, a contribution pool of $1 million. That, whilst that's a substantial amount of money, that is not the equation where we've got 100. That's great. What we need to get to is a premium pool, ideally of about $5 million. It will work upwards from about 2.5 million, but it's better if you can get to 5 million. So that might be some of the major players in the market. If who I know are finding it that are multinational. I know some of them are finding it difficult for the costs of premium that they're having to pay here in Australia, or that they're being forced to pay in a global thing. Yeah.
Paul, if you don't mind, I can just step across that for a minute. Sorry, because I don't know how much time. I don't know how much time you got and how much time the other people got. So the question is, you've answered. It's 5 million. 5 million's the target. That's fine.
Yeah, that's right. 5 million is a target.
Great, fantastic. $5 million. That's your target. That's what you need. Okay, great. Coming onto the board for a minute. So the board is made up of. What is the setup of the board? Who is on the board?
Members of the that are in the discretion mutual fund.
Okay, so you got Steadfast in there, yep.
No, well, so Steadfast would manage it, but if you've got if you were a member of the fund, Tony, you could elect to be on the board, for example. So it's members in the fund.
So you got Steadfast. So okay, so all right, got it. Fine. Okay, the next one is the board members. So, and I understand the reinsurance process. I get all that. So we'll sit, okay, so you got board members.
Yep.
This has been organised, it's been instigated through the RWTA.
Yep.
So we have X amount of board members. There's a catastrophic disaster.
Yep.
And it has been proven to be negligent. So, from a legal perspective, where do the board, because they're a director, so under the ASIC and all of the constraints, there is total liability sitting there.
Yep.
Explain that out in brief, please, in brief. Don't.
Sure. No, I understand.
Just in bullet points, because I think all of us can take it on board. So in your experience now and your previous setups, tell everyone on the hookup, where does that liability sit in the event that a member has been deemed negligent?
So it's up to the board to determine whether a claim is paid. That's the primary thing. And they would take legal advice through Steadfast, would make available lawyers to give advice if it was found to be negligent on how they would manage the payment of any claim. Steadfast would, there would be due diligence in investigation, like in any claim that you would currently have under an insurance policy. Loss assessors go out, forensic, if that needs to be done, would go out. There would be audits done by forensic auditors to determine the cause and what flows from that. Then they'd get legal advice, and it's up to the board to determine what they want to do. Now, the board should have a management liability policy. That inside a management liability policy is directors and officers liability. So if the board was challenged by that member because they decided that they only wanted to part pay or not pay the claim for whatever reason, there's an insurance policy that will pay to protect the directors from being sued and the fund being sued.
Okay, all right. How many of these structures have you put in place?
I haven't put any in place directly.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine. Then can you answer what would be, in your research that you've done, what would be the average percentage drop? And I understand you need $5 million worth of premium. Based on that, what do you think the average percentage drop in premium would be based on a mix of middle, small, and large members that contribute into that $5 million?
That's a great question. And again, I'm not trying to avoid the answer straight up. If they were to take on board some of the risk mitigation strategies that they mightn't have otherwise had in place before when they were just insured by a general insurance company, and I'll come back to that in a second. If we exclude that and just say premium to contribution value, I'm guessing at least 10%, but it might be as high as 30%, depending on if you're a company that operates where there is fire services levy, because you don't have to pay fire services levy. Okay. Now, if you take into account risk management strategies that would be recommended through the fire protection engineers, blah, 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 and potentially painting on surfaces, if you got standard EPS paneling and you paint it onto those surfaces, a fire retardant paint that Steadfast own here in Australia for distribution, that is being assessed globally as an incredibly effective fire retardant product, that will help drive down premiums further. So just contribution to premium straight up, there'll be a saving minimum 10%, maybe greater. And then if you do all the risk management things, expect an increased reduction in effective premium.
So on the basis of that, then the panel of the review panel for the risk assessment.
Yep.
And I know quite a few of them. So each of them have a different mandate. Each of those risk providers, if you look at Vero, if you look at a couple of the other majors that go through and do those risk assessments.
So those risk assessments are done by people who are employed by the insurance company. These will be independent of insurance companies. So these are consultants that provide a service to the industry. So if you're insured with Vero, you'll only get a Vero risk engineer, and their training, their what Vero wants them to focus on, which may or may not be a conflict with your needs, but you'd get a group of independent engineers would come out and do the review, be it fire, electricity, whatever.
Right. And just for the members, do you have an estimate of what you think the members would need to pay to have that total risk assessment done? And again, fire, engineering, refrigeration services, all of those bits and pieces, right?
Yeah. So
ballpark number.
Yeah, ballpark. So it depends if it's I'm calling a major city location versus country versus outback. It's gonna vary. And as a standalone, like if I just got something in independently for one of my clients, not that would be, which is different to what we'd be doing here, because we'd be setting up some companies to look after members nationally, and so we would negotiate a lower standard price. Okay, so if we just as a one-off, for not somebody who's a member, I'm going to give you I'll give you figures for the city, right? If it was a city location, you might pay about and this would be for one location, you might pay for risk engineering review that doesn't include electricity and doesn't include fire protection. just the layout and the structure, the processes, you'd probably pay about, depending on the size again, but we'll say about $3,000. To get an electrical review is probably going to cost about $1,500. To have a fire protection review it might be a couple of $1,000. So that's what you'd be putting together in the city. Now, again, I want to say we would put together a panel that will give us a better price than that, because this would be something that's required by every member. So this is in effect guaranteed work for the companies that are chosen by the board to go out and do these reviews for members.
Okay.
And again, I just want to say the variable here is the size of the properties that need to be assessed, and the complexity.
Absolutely, I get that, and it's just I'm asking that question because
Yeah.
a lot of people would want to know.
I'm sure. Yeah.
It's
Absolutely.
like a storybook. You got the beginning, you got the middle, and you got the closing chapter, haven't you?
Yeah, I get it. Absolutely.
So just I only got a couple left, but so you haven't set one of these up yourself.
No, that's why I want to get.
What type of industry are you aware of where this is currently functioning at all of the allocated levels we've discussed today, where it's totally a functional structure?
Sure. So I haven't set one up myself, as I've said, but working with Steadfast Art, they do this every year and have been doing it for about 10 years. I haven't got the exact information, but I'm happy to go out and get it for you. I believe there are about 100 of these discretionary mutual funds that are operative in Australia. Because they're not an insurance company, there's no hard data that I can go to through the ABS, for example, and get information like I can on insurance companies. But I'm happy to get that information and send it through to Marianne, and she can distribute it out to the membership base. But they are active and functioning at the moment.
Okay, and I think the members would know, or they would know. I mean, I know what our company's industrial special risk premium structure is. So all members would know what their cost structure is for their baseline premium.
Yep.
So my understanding of today's discussion is do or die where this goes, whether we continue or whether it's dead in the water, never to be raised again, is I think the words used. So, I know you've put a lot of time into it, and I think it's I just don't know how we get to today after. Has this presentation, and excuse my ignorance, has this presentation been done in this detail previously?
The one that I did in October carried a bit more information around how you set up a discretionary mutual fund and how it operates. So,
okay.
So, that's the only other time that we've had this sort of detail. And to set up the discretionary mutual fund, to find out if it's worthwhile, we need to get some raw data. We don't need to have company names, but we need to have, locations and the premiums they pay for their industrial special risk policy and their liability policy, so that we can determine whether, there's a premium pool there and sufficient interest to do it. So, I understand some people want to keep that sort of data close to their chest. We don't need to know names. But we need information to work out whether we can make the next, go to the next step.
Well, let's discuss that very quickly. What you need then is you need 16.6 members to get over the line. You need 17 members at $300,000 a year each.
Correct.
Pardon?
Yep, that's right. Now,
yeah, you do. You need 17 members.
That's right.
So this is supposed to be a do or die discussion.
Yep.
So I'll throw my hat in the ring. You got one.
Good on you.
You
got one. Now that's
Tony.
up to the RWTA to now. You need 17 members.
That is correct. That's up to me to go and chase down all of the different companies. So there's going to be now 2 videos that we can use as backup. I'll be calling every single one of the members to say, I'd like for you to put in these figures and to consider it. And that's when it gets to the do or die. So I didn't want to have multiple videos rehashing the same info. It's now up to me to call people, get them interested, get the figures and get the ball rolling. Or if I do not get the interest that is required, it gets put to bed and all over Red Rover.
So to get to that point, I and this has always been and it's not only this association. I'm involved in other associations, and people are very, very skeptical about putting their data across. So let's be open and honest about it.
Yep.
So I use that number of $300,000 because on a weighted average in your space,
yep,
on a medium size operation in the current market, that fluctuation runs between 2 and 300,000.
Yep.
Am I anywhere near the mark?
Yep. I'm in agreement with you.
So
yes.
10%'s the start rate. So for everyone else, and everyone else would be aware of this. So the hurdle you've got, whilst you get someone saying, okay, I can have a look at that. So that's a $30,000 reduction to people.
Yep.
As you know, the ball breaker in this now is the potential risk for the upgrade to the members when the risk assessor goes through, and you've already highlighted one criteria from Steadfast that they, if you use a fire prevention paint. So whilst the member may have between a $30,000 and $90,000 saving, he may be up for $500,000 to get his facility over the line to meet the standards of what the new structure requires. So I think from a perspective of where Mary Ann is at, that the next stage is a little bit deeper. So you need 17 members or 16, whatever I said, roughly. What those members now have to actually be asked is they will know 100% where they exactly sit on their risk portfolio. They will know that. So what they need to do is then analyse if an average, you got 10%, 10 to 30%. So they already know the numbers to play with, Mary Ann. So it's not a hard equation. You should be able to wrap this up within a month.
No. Look, in the past, just some figures for you. We had I gained 16 different companies information to give to the other company that was looking into this, and it takes time for sure, but at the same time it's worthwhile, because I think we need to look into it, consider it, and either put it to bed or get on with it.
Can I just say the other company is not somebody who's doing something at the moment. This is something that was done 3 years ago.
Yep.
So I just want to say that. And Tony, to say there might be $500,000 cost of upgrade, I'm not sure where you got that figure from, but that sounds a huge amount of money, and I don't understand. I'm not sure how you calculated that, but I will say that it's not just a 1 year saving. So if you're in the fund for 10 years and you're saving $30,000, that's a $300,000 saving that goes straight to your bottom line. And incrementally that may get bigger because your premiums aren't going to continue to rise. In fact, contribution, your cost may actually reduce over time through the success of the fund. And the other thing too is if there are recommendations by the risk engineers but through Steadfast on how to improve somebody's current facility, that's just reducing the potential of having a catastrophic event, which is going to serve nobody. It doesn't help the owner of the business, doesn't help the employees, doesn't help the suppliers, and it doesn't help the fund. So the intention is to help people not have a problem.
No,
It's
I get that. I understand.
incredibly proactive. That's all.
I understand that. Yeah.
Yep.
No, I really do.
Yeah.
So, anyway, look, I'm sure other people have got some questions. So that's it for me.
Thanks, Tony.
Thanks, Tony. Appreciate them.
So are there any other questions from the floor for Paul? Because we've gone over the hour by a bit. So if you've got anything, give us a yell. Otherwise, we'll close this one off and I'll be in contact with you all soon.
Right. Thanks again for the opportunity to present to you. I mean, thank you. Cheers.
Thank you.
Thank you for your presentation.
Thanks everyone for
Paul.
coming
Well
along.
done.
We'll talk soon.
Cheers.
Thanks, Paul.
Okay.
Thank you, mate. Bye.